Welcome to this month's episode of the World of Roofing podcast, hosted by John Kenny of Cotney Consulting and Andrew Rowley of roofmapping.com, where we will introduce you to a new roofing industry artisan from around the world.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the World in Roofing. As always, I'm John Kenny with Cotney Consulting Group, and I'm joined here with my co-host, Andrew Rowley of roofmapping.com. And just to bring you up to speed, this is the heat of summer all over, including the world. I was just talking to Andrew before the podcast, and today is the hottest day on record over there in the UK. So some interesting things going on here. Very much so, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's hot. Yeah, like you say, the hottest day on record for the country. I've just been on 2 roof surveys today, single ply roofs. So it was hard work, lots of water, getting in the shade as much as possible. But yeah, it's, I feel sorry for the guys out properly working in it today. I know they've been starting early and finishing before noon, so I don't blame them. But fair play to them getting out there and carrying on working.
Yeah, well, as always, it proves that roofing is a very tough industry, and we're either always out in the elements, but roofers always find a way to plug through. Well, today we have the honor of being joined by our special guest, Charlie Williams. To let the audience know out there, I do have a very good history with Mr. Williams. He goes back with me to the 79, 80, somewhere in there, a long time ago, back in New Jersey, but I'm not going to give a spoiler alert. I'm going to let Charlie tell the story. I think you're going to find his love and his passion, his dedication to the roofing industry has never wavered. And honestly, I've never met a finer gentleman than Charlie throughout my career. So Charlie, I'd like to turn it on over to you.
Yeah, thank you, John, for those kind words. When I had contemplated on the questions, how did I get into the roofing industry? I, being a man of faith, went right to scripture. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. So when I began to look back in that rearview mirror of my life, working providentially behind the scenes, as I tell the story, you'll see God's invisible hand was guiding the history and bringing about his purpose, even though it was not evident to me. It really has become evident to me since I retired and began to pay it back. I, in the commercial industrial roofing industry for 40 years with Johns Manville. And those 40 years, it was a timely preparation that sharpened me for the future eventualities in roofing. And so let me see if I can distill it down into a Reader's Digest version of a timeline to start this journey. I call them breadcrumbs. So when I was in high school, not even having an idea that I could afford college, but I came from a background where education was extremely important. And so in high school, I decided to get into the college prep track, even though I didn't have any idea where I was going to get the money or how I was going to get to college. I went into the college prep track. And during the college prep track, during my junior year, my grades were such, they opened up a brand new vocational school in Florida, in Fort Myers, Florida. It was called Lee County Vocational Tech School. And so everybody, all the students who had their grades were such that they could go to the tech school half day and high school half day. I chose, don't ask me why, I chose mechanical drafting. It was just something that seemed kind of interesting to me. And I still remember the professor, he was from Michigan, but he had relocated to Fort Myers, and he taught mechanical drafting. And I always like to refer to teachers because I guess everybody that changed a life. I had several. And there's a saying about teachers that a good teacher is like a candle. They consume themselves by lighting the way for others. So we have to be careful that we don't burn them out, right? And so from that, then I graduated, migrated to New York, where my family was, my mother's family was, and started working. in New York. Started out Metropolitan Life, mail room to claims approver. And then when they reactivated the draft in 70, 71, and I'm sitting watching the TV with this gigantic plastic ball with all these, looked like bingo numbers in, right? The numbers, the drum went around, stuck his hand in, pulled it out. I was number 72. My mother kind of freaked out because it was the Vietnam era, the height of it. And so I decided to calm her fears. I went and I joined the Air Force. I took the test for the Air Force. And again, what happened is my MOS, which is the career in the Air Force, was airframe repairman. Okay, so I'm coming from mechanical drafting to airframe repairman. So the tech school is in Chanute Air Force Base outside of Illinois, Chicago. And so the training and the classes was on mechanical drafting, because we had to fabricate parts for use on all the Air Force aircraft, be it the fuselage or be it the wings, which had, the wings had honeycomb. So you would literally have to peel back the metal, restock the honeycomb and reseal again. So that was the Air Force, right? So I come out of the Air Force and I was going to go to a mechanical drafting school, trade school in New York. But I decided, I'm a numbers guy, cost benefit. You know what, let me take the military's money and go to college. So I worked full time and went to St. John's University at night. And my first major was, I'm a writer. So philosophy kind of touched me. And I had a very good professor. And so they changed professors on me. And the second professor didn't excite me, didn't inspire me. So as I was preparing for a test one day, I was sitting on a grassy knoll outside of an apartment complex where I lived. And I literally had an out-of-body experience, And I came in front of myself and said, Charlie, there are no more philosopher kings. How are you going to make a living? And so I started thinking about it. And so I decided to go into marketing. Business administration was my degree, but marketing was my specialization. And here's a providential piece again. As I'm there, and all of the classmates that I was with, these are all gentlemen who were in the business world, and they were coming back to get their degrees. And so I'm sitting in these classes, especially marketing class and new product development and everything with marketing, and I never spoke. And I was always quiet, but so the professor came to me one day and said, listen, I got an opportunity for you. He says, you never speak, but your grades show that you can hold your own with any of these guys. He was a senior territory manager for Johns Manville. Back in those days, in the 70s, he had from the entire state of New York, from Kingston all the way down to the island, Suffolk County, and everything in between. And so they were looking for young upstarts to come into the sales field. Mm-hmm. And so the professor said, okay, Charlie, he says, I recommended you to stand. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the library and there's a book called Standard & Poor's. And Standard & Poor's is a book with all major businesses are in this book. And this book pretty much details what their business is about, their volume, their profit margins, their market share, anything you want to know. And he said, what I want you to do, I want you to go in and I want you to study this. Because when you go for an interview, the first thing they're going to say to you is, well, we know you don't know anything about us. And he said, that will be your opportunity to just lay it out. And true to form, they did. And I was so amazed that I started just spurting out their business. And they stopped me and says, how do you know about us? And I said, well, I did my research, and I'm sure you did research on me to try to find out who I was. And so, long story short, I went through, at that time, Johns Manville had a manager of the region, an assistant manager, an engineer, an assistant engineer was at the regional office. So I had to interview with each and every one of them, because at Johns Manville, it was more about consultative selling, technical selling when it came to roofing. And so I learned that, and next thing you know, I get hired. And so I went from an associate sales rep in New York, the 5 boroughs, and my love ended up being for architects and contractors. So the senior guy Stan said, okay, Charlie, I'm going to carve, you're going to be responsible for the architects and the contractors in certain boroughs. And that's what happened. And the next thing you know, I then was offered a promotion to manage New Jersey. And John, that's how you and I met. I came to New Jersey in 1982. And I moved to a town called Parsippany, which is Morris County, which was not far from where John and his family's business was in Dover.
Yep.
And so that's how I got to meet John. And then from that, I became a senior sales rep, a territory manager, and a regional manager in preferred accounts. So that's how I got into roofing. And
we did a lot of work together back in the day. We sure did.
Yeah, a lot of work. Yes, a lot of work. And then next question about my fondest memories, that's one of them. I remember the days when I would come in and since I was doing the architecture work, I would design and help the architects specify, because probably still to this day, architects only get about an hour, 2 hours in architectural school on roofing. So they rely on the salespeople. And I realized early on that character was very important, because here I was helping to solve problems with architects and helping with design. And so it was more than just my product. It was their reputation that was on the line. So whatever I said would happen, it had to happen, or else that affected their reputation and my reputation in the marketplace.
Sure.
So some of the other fondness was I really loved driving revenue and results. It was amazing to me that I actually was responsible for running many multi-million-dollar corporation-sized territories and regions. Like I said, I had at one point, I went back to New York and I had to manage the whole of New York. And then I went to New Jersey, I managed the whole of New Jersey. And there was a time Manville did residential and commercial roofing. They combined the two. Then I had the responsibility of orchestrating the diversity of salespeople, commercial and residential. And if you've ever experienced that, residential salespeople are truly not like commercial salespeople. There's just a difference there. And so I had to meld the residential guys with the mindset of the commercial roofing guys. Another fondness, customer trips to manufacturing plants. This was before Johns Manville got hit with the asbestos lawsuits. We had Cessna airplanes that we would take customers, get a group of customers. I had customers out of New Jersey, right? We would put them on the Cessna. I was the male stewardess, right? And we would put them on the planes and we would take them to plants. And on the way there, you know, we would entertain them. We'd get them to the plants and take them through the plants so that they could see the quality of the product and the cleanliness. Because just like on a roofing site, you can tell a good contractor by the housekeeping on the job. I always knew if I was going to have a problem on the job with a contractor by the housekeeping. So that was another fondness. The other one was Bercy. Bercy at Johns Manville is probably about 60 years old now, which had started out by bringing education to architects. And back then, the acronym Bercy, B-U-R-S-I, was Built Up Roofing Systems Institute. And as time went on, when single ply came into vogue. They had to change, it was still Bercy because it had the brand, right? But it became Better Understanding of Roofing Systems Institute. And so that was wonderful to have architects and engineers from all over the country come in for 3 or 4 days. And another thing about Johns Manville and the person who was running it, you could not talk about our value propositions. That was a no-no. This was an objective educational venue for architects and engineers. So if I wanted to talk about my product or systems, then I had to wait till I get back to the marketplace to go see these architects to begin to talk to them. Another one was cover boards. I was part of the marketing planning team for the commercialization of half-inch retrofit board and Johns Manville invents it. So, and then the one last one, well, I had numerous sales awards and achievements. And the other one was Johns Manville was one of the first manufacturers to invest in mobile phones. Used to call them car phones back then. They were all mounted. And they only gave them to the managers or the field territory managers like myself. And I can remember on a very rainy day on New Jersey Turnpike, the phone paid for itself because I was negotiating a block of business that equated to $1 million.
Wow.
I still remember it. This was in the 80s. I still remember it. And I still remember that Nokia mobile phone that was mounted in my car. That was a great thing. And lastly, fondness was John and I worked together a lot, but one of the projects, and in New Jersey and New York, there were market areas that were very tough, not only competitively, but just the area was tough. And there was a project called Curry Woods Project, a complex right off of Jersey City, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And it was multiple buildings. And this was a time when EPDM had just hit the market. And John and his family decided to invest in the product and to go with Manville with the single ply. And it's probably something that's not well known with people. Before our other major competitors, Johns Manville was one of the first ones in the EPDM business. Actually made their own EPDM sheets. But when the other people who were basic in rubber and tires came into, we decided to outsource. So those are my fondest moments. Wow, now we get to, go ahead, John.
Now I was saying the amazing story of the phone. People take for granted how easy it is to communicate today. You having a mobile phone in your car, like you say, that was Manville was cracking the technology edge of the time for sure.
Yes.
Big, made a big difference.
Made a big difference. And, it was a huge investment because it was back then when it was analog, right? And the cost per minute for a call was $1.50. So the phone bills were very expensive. And then because it was analog, what happened is the thieves decided they could go to one of the electronic stores and they found a device that they could tap into phones. And I can remember one time my monthly bill came to like $2,000. And so we went to Ma Bell back then, which is Verizon, and said, whoa, we didn't make all these calls. And that's when the cell phone companies just knew that they had a problem. So they quickly went to digital because digital changes that series of numbers. And so you couldn't tap into it. And so, yeah, that's my cell phone experience. Now, my greatest challenges, I'm going to say just one challenge, which when I came into the industry, 1976, people like me were non-existent. There was no frame of reference from which the marketplace could draw from or which I could draw from because there was nobody like me. And so going through my daily job, I realized I had to first my first attempt was to change the mindset before I could get down to business, because I was new. I was something no one had ever seen. And so a lot of questions began to come, furrowed brows. And my biggest challenge, I said, was altering those mindsets and to expose to people like me in the industry and in the business world. So every day when I went in on a sales call or whatever I did, I had to prove that I was worthy on being on the playing field, right? Didn't take it personal, but because I kind of analyzed and knew what was going on. So now when you couple that challenge with the challenging job of business development, wow, because we all know business development, cold calls have a success rate of 2% in converting cold leads to warm prospects, right? Yeah. 2%, imagine that, 98% failure rate. Who would want to be a salesman? You're going to fail 98% of the time. Now, when you overlay that with that mindset thing, I was probably north of 100%, that challenge. And so I was constantly facing a headwind. And so if you look at that, I was destined to fail. But from where I came from, failure was not an option. 3 words: faith, commitment, and character, marinated in an embryonic fluid of passion, got me through. And I often think of a quote by Bob Marley, great singer: "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice." So that's the challenges. Now, we are following this providential pathway, right? These breadcrumbs. That's how I got into roofing and my challenges. And again, providentially, my faith kind of stayed me and kept me in the game and refused to let anybody tell me that I couldn't do something, especially when you didn't create me. So you can't tell me what I can't do. It's something that was put into me, and I know that. So after I retired after 40 years with Johns Manville, I said, well, how am I going to pay this forward? Because I can't sit still. And my wife said, you won't sit still because you're so severely type A that you're not going to drive me crazy. And so my love has always been young people. And the way I grew up, not having great opportunities, and what I went through in roofing and all the people that I met that poured into me, that taught me things. And I saw all of the opportunities in roofing, all the pathways for careers. I said, then I'm going to become a mentor. And so I became a mentor at our church. It's called All God's Children, right? It's just no matter who you are, again, no matter what color you are, no matter what nationality, no matter what church, we're all his children, so I'm going to help you. And so I then joined an organization, a nonprofit organization called Movement. And there's a branch in Williamsburg, Virginia, where I'm from, called Greater Williamsburg Movement. It's a 5013 nonprofit organization. And the tagline, as they coined for me, is multiply the impact of one through the unity of many. And so our goal is to bring together the community of churches, marketplace leaders, business leaders, and nonprofit organizations to transform communities. And it's not anecdotal. We use data to determine what the needs are. And I have a saying, in God I trust, everybody else got to produce quantifiable data, because then I'll begin to believe you. And so that began, I then started, out of that was this, what you see behind me is called Project Inspire. So quickly, as I'm out pre-pandemic and I get this vision, wow, everything is closing down. What are the young kids that have nothing to begin with? What are they going to do when the school closes down? Because that's where they get their technology from. libraries are closing down, they can't go there. So I went back up my Rolodex and into the corporate world, and private donor of all people, Johns Manville, stepped up. And I was able to get 30 Lenovo brand new Chromebooks. And as I'm talking to the chief information officer, and he said, wow, he said, this is greater than Chromebooks, what you're doing. This is an inspiration. This is inspiring. Bingo. Project Inspire. The acronym stands for Investing in Students' Potential and the Potential Future Outcomes. That's what Inspire is all about. And it's the tagline for that is filled with the urge to feel and do something. It's the umbrella that takes in the investments of capital from private donors for all initiatives. And that's where one of the initiatives is building a skilled trade, building a bench. And that's how John and I got reconnected again, because I saw some things on LinkedIn, which he was doing. And I said, bingo, this will work. I can use this to introduce young people to skilled trades in general, but roofing specifically. Because you guys probably know this, and everybody knows this. If we do word association and you say construction, you're going to get faces frowned, you're going to get negativity. And then when you overlay with that and you say roofing, people just, and so they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's one of our challenges in the industry is to get the word out and be an ambassador. So I've become that ambassador. And, it baffles my mind with politicians and business people, some business people, that, it's more efficient to invest in students during their best days rather than sit back and wait for them during their worst days. I'm full of quotes, guys. So Desmond Tutu said, when are we going to stop pulling people out of the river and begin to go upstream and find out what's pushing them in? Frederick Douglass had a better one. He said, it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And us being business people, we know, and it's less expensive. And so that's what started marinating those visions in my mind about skilled trades and bringing bright spots to young people. And one of the bright spots when it comes to skilled trades is creating that technical education partnerships with national and local state organizations and contractors to bring skilled trades career pathways to those young people, and to promote education for certification in those skilled trades. And then the next piece of the vision is to link the graduates with firms offering internships, apprenticeships, and career opportunities. And so I'm a firm believer that education with exposure will definitely change your life. You're looking at a poster child for that. Definitely. Exposure I got, plus the education for such a time as this, here I am. Yeah. And so then I reached out to John, and he did a early morning presentation for the group. We meet every Saturday since the pandemic. It's 135 weeks now, 8:30 to 9:30, various speakers, different things that data has proven out. We bring those speakers in to talk about it, then try to find the resources for it. And so John's roofing estimating training program was one such thing. And Cotney Consulting Group blessed us with 3 scholarships. And so out of the 3, we have 1 left trying to fill. And that's that difficult challenge, trying to get the buy-in, especially in construction and especially in roofing. Yeah. And I was telling earlier about the story of a young lady. The first person that reached out for me, the way I did it is put out the announcement, and then there was a survey and requirements. there was 3 questions. Your first name, no, 4 questions. First name, your last name, your passion for skilled trades or roofing, and then are you between the ages of 18 and 25? Because I felt that that's what the sweet spot was, right? So swimming along here trying to get by, and I get a ding. And I responded back via email. The person responded back. And I'm thinking, wow, this person doesn't talk text-ese like young people. And full sentences, periods, punctuations. I'm like, whoa. So they answered every question. First name, last name, interested, didn't answer the 4th question. So now I'm thinking, you didn't answer the 4th question because you don't fit that space. So I don't think I'm going to bother with this, but then something says, no, you are. And so back and forth, I said, can we, and your father, because she mentioned her father, can we have a Zoom call? Set up a Zoom call, got on the call, and blew me away. It was a young 15-year-old African-American female, bright as ever. Her father is in the construction business, and she embraced it. She actually said to me, I will keep you posted on my journey. She actually followed me up for, when are you going to register me? and so I'm saying, this is right. This is right in my DNA. And she's on the 4th module so far. And I can't see her scores, but I'm willing to bet you that they're high. Because she'll be a junior next year, and her GPA, I think it's like a 3.8, 3.9. So she's interested. So that's a really good thing.
That is a great one, very much.
And then another young man he was a graduate of a high school here where I was doing some mentoring, and he tried to go through the shipyard. Most of the young people in Virginia, especially in the 757 southern part of Virginia, there is the shipyard. And the shipyard has career trade opportunities. And most of them try to get in with welding, but it's very competitive to get in. And he couldn't get in. And then his mother heard about Project Inspire and asked me, is it possible? I said, yes, let's have a Zoom, because I always want to talk to young people to find out where they are, because this is important. This is about justifying, make sure that the dollars are spent well and that the outcome is good, because we have metrics for the outcome, because we're talking about proof of concept. So if I go to someone else, okay, here's the proof of concept, here's what happened. And and the other piece was, I was on a Zoom call with LinkedIn, and the NRCA was on. And they're talking about their track program, training for roofing application career. And so I'm going to look into that and see if I can purchase that once I get the bench and get people interested. Yeah. So that's the investing in young people.
That's really good. That is. I mean, the Inspire is one of the 4 things that we're trying to do with roofmapping.com. Because we think if we can show young people and the general public some of the great craft that is being done, they might think, actually, that's actually pretty cool. I'd like to be able to do that. Because as an older person who's worked within the roofing industry and within architecture, I look at some of the detail, especially some of the metalwork, and I think, wow, that's really cool. I'd like to be able to do that. Yeah. So if we can inspire the younger generation to think, I'd like to be involved in this industry, I'd like to learn that craft. And hone it, then it might not just be the kids of people already in the industry that go, because they've obviously had exposure to that industry, haven't they? Through their parents, they know the parents have a good job, etc. So we need to try and broaden that by showing them, and that's what the website and the platform is about. Just let them have a look at the different roofs that are being done across the world different materials, whether that's bamboo, metal, asphalt, whatever it might be. But yeah, we just want to expose more people to what's going on above their heads, because it's all up there. Just
Yes.
that they don't see it.
Yes. I call the roof, I call the roof the fifth wall.
Yeah.
Which gives a little bit more significance to it, right? With anybody that looks at a building. I mean, it's probably the most important wall there is.
Yeah.
Is that roofing wall.
But they don't care about it until there's a problem.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right.
So we want to change that.
Yes, yes. I'm until I close my eyes, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. And so lastly, I'd like to say, what else would I like to add? We are pursuing partners for investing in this potential and future, right? And the way I look at it, if nourish that landscape of the communities and strengthen by directing the flow of, I call it river capital, through the communities for these opportunities. And this will more than most assuredly improve the economic and social well-being in the communities, and because it'll develop workplace competencies as far as technical skills and career skills for these individuals, help build a foundation for a stable career throughout their lives, right? Not just in and out, with a steady, well-paying job for a bright future. Instead of what's happening to a lot of young people down in this corridor, they're working 2 or 3 jobs.
Okay.
They're missing out on the careers. So.
Agreed. Sometimes people say, well, roofing is too hot, it's too hard, it's too this, but that's your job. It's much easier to work one hard job than it is to work 3, semi-hard jobs or semi-easy jobs, because you have time to yourself. And the reward of knowing a trade, and the thing is, everybody understands, roofing's not just the technical person putting the roof on. As Charlie, your career was working with the technical and installing the roofs, but the career is there in many ways. It's in the manufacturing side, it's in the contracting side, it's in the distribution sites, everywhere. This is a wide range industry that has a huge future to offer anyone. Even I love the fact that a 15-year-old was taking this. It's amazing. I think that's fantastic. That is just says to itself that that's somebody exploring the boundaries of what's out there, and I think that's fantastic. And it's there for the 30-year-olds, it's there for the 40-year-olds. It doesn't matter. This industry will take you on, and it's a good way to make a living, and it's a good future.
Well, one of the other things I did, that I had this vision, I said I need a mentor for this person, this female. So I went back up the corporate ladder again. And I left Johns Manville in real good stead, so I can reach out for various people. And one of the persons that I had mentored, she came into the division I left, and she agreed to be the mentor for Zuri. And and she the division I left out of was preferred accounts, where I just dealt with all major building owners and REITs and people of that nature. And so she's agreed to be her mentor.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That is good. So we're coming to a close here. This was an absolute great episode, full of information. It is so nice to catch back up for sure, Charlie. Hear about your great career. I know I was there for part of it, and followed you all the way through, and LinkedIn brought us back together, and we're working together. Andrew, any closing remarks on your end today?
No, it'd just be interesting if any of the roofs that you two worked on are still standing, and we can get them on the map.
Oh, I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Let's try and find some. But yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit quiet of late with some personal things that I'm dealing with my wife's health, but hopefully we'll be back on track, getting some more roofs put on the map. Just highlighting some of the great work that's being done again across the world with different materials. So I love seeing the work on social media. So if I reach out to you, please come back to me. Let's put it on there. But yeah, Charlie, if you want your students to have a look and explore the website, please visit. Have a look. We've got a couple of over 400 different roofs across the world for them to go and have a look at the photos and details, and just have a look at what can be done.
Okay.
So,
Well, if I would just leave you with this quickie, My mother passed 3 years ago, June, right? But before she passed, a year before she passed, she called me up and she said, son, I had a dream. I said, okay, Ma, what was the dream? She says, you said to me, Ma, look, I'm on top of the world. I thought this morning, I said, oh my Lord, the world of roofing. I would have never in a zillion years ever thought I would have an opportunity to be on a platform like this to share. So thank you, John. Thank you, Andrew, for this.
That's okay. Pleasure to meet you.
And Mother, thank you.
Thank you. And to our audience out there, we will catch you next month. And once again, we thank you for listening, and always keep sending your questions in, and always go to roofmapping.com to check out the latest and greatest projects from around the world. Thank you again.
All right. See you guys.